Denmark?
Yes.
Denmark? He played for Denmark? How on earth did that happen?
Yeah, there's very few guys that can say they're dual internationals, Quinny. I was over there in the early 2000s just coaching, and Denmark used to be part of the one-day competition in England. I ended up playing as an international player.
A ring-in?
A ring-in, basically.
Safe to say that Princess Mary is the second most famous Australian in Denmark?
Well, anything Australian at that stage, because she just came onto the scene. You're right. I was in good touch over there. I peeled off a 50, so I batted at 4, I think. So my average was always blown out in these list A statistics. So against all the other fast bowlers, they go, well, let's just check the averages, where your averages are, and I'd have them all covered all the time.
G'day sports fans and welcome to Quinny's Stablemates. A very special guest today, Bryce McGain, one of the most persistent sportsmen I've ever met, and I tip my buffon to him because he's one of the nicest guys in Australian sport. Welcome, Bryce.
Hey, I really appreciate the tip of the buffon, but great to be here and love what you're doing. It's a lot of fun.
It has been great fun. I love listening to these sports people tell their stories and talk about their connection with racing, and today you're going to take us behind the curtain because a lot of us look at the cricketers, whether it's for Victoria or Australia, and we know they love the racing, and we wonder what goes on sometimes, and you were front and centre to both, and you had shares in horses at the time.
Yeah, look, it was a really enjoyable time. Obviously, for me, it was happening a bit later in my life, so as long as it was going to last, I was going to have fun and really make the most of it. And I guess I'm a generation out. A lot of the guys I played with were a bit younger than me, but the racing was a silent connector behind the group, I suppose, and a good opportunity to look at something in a bit of detail, look at form and things like that. Not that we were mad punters and spending lots of money or losing lots of money or winning lots of money either way, but it was more about the getting it right and looking at the form and doing those things. And so it was a good distraction from, I guess, the tensions at time in cricket. It was a good thing to do.
And let's face it, if you're playing cricket and the team's batting, there are 2 players out in the middle, and then there are another 9 and the 12th man, and the players aren't playing, and the coaching staff all in the room. So you probably need a bit of a distraction along the way.
Yeah, for us tail enders, there's a lot of sitting around. And in the Victorian time at that stage, there was a lot of batting that they did, and they performed so well. So it was a pleasure to watch. But every 30 or so minutes, we'd keep our eye to the races, and often we'd have a screen in the rooms, which no one else could really see out there. But that was tuned into whatever racing channel was on, and that's I guess a bit of a hidden secret.
Now that magnificent Victorian team during that era won so many Sheffield Shield titles, and you had a close bond off the field as a team, and horse racing was a common interest, so much so that you went into syndicates together.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like a few of us did that. The captain, Cameron White, was always interested in it, and we'd often go to breakfast together and be casting our eye over the form guide. We'd hardly talk to each other and go, what about this one? I like what's going on there. So we'd hardly talk, but we'd look at the guide. And so we'd quite enjoy the fact that before a game or even during a game that we weren't stressed about, what the cricket and what will lay ahead. So I think that helped him a bit as well. But, part of the ball and chain syndicate with a number of friends. And that was a huge syndicate that Lee Freedman pulled together, the Freedman clan. And so we had Dwayne Dunn, who rode a lot for him, and Benny Mellum, and those things are in the convicts' colours, and we followed them everywhere. We had a great ride with Fandura and Above Average, and amongst some others, Ajara as well had a win at an Anzac Day meet as well. So they all had a city runner and a winner, and they paid their way, which was good.
Now, who were some of the cricketers involved in the syndicate?
Well, Cameron White was certainly behind it, but the syndicate was probably separate to the cricketers. They had their own sort of thing, and they were probably buying a lot bigger shares than what I was, I must be honest. But, I probably had a hair or an eyelash of some of these horses, but, it was good fun and gave the same excitement that you do in playing cricket, that exhilarating feel as your horse is going to win, and how exciting that is. We see it every weekend all the way around the country, the excitement of the owners and those even associated that don't have a share. It is really exciting, and it does replicate a bit of cricket.
And you were trendsetters in a way because you were buying these imported stain types to come and race in Australia, and you really hit the ground running. Talk to us about Fandura, who won 2 Easter Cups, and one of them quite memorable.
Yeah, it was indeed. And it's memorable because It was leading up to that Sheffield Shield final that Victoria won against Queensland at the MCG, and the run before that, Lee was pretty confident. So I did let on to all the guys in the team, hey, look, Lee's pretty confident about this European stay that's coming in, and I think over 1,700 metres it won really well. And it was about the time around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and Dave Hussey's peeling runs off, and we were well ahead of Tasmania at the time in this match, and everyone just disappeared from the viewing box at the MCG. We all went downstairs and had a good look at the race, and we were cheering that loudly that he thought we were declaring. So he was wondering what was going on. Matthew Wade's out there. What are they doing? What's going on? But we were that excited that it came across the line. And then a couple of weeks later, it won the Easter Cup around that Shield final as well. So exciting times. And you don't want to keep it yourself. You've got to share it. That's the worst thing. If you have a tip and it's going to go well, you've got to let people know.
You were doing pretty popular about that time then.
Yeah, I think they were pretty pleased, yeah.
Now, you spoke to us about your connection with the Freedman stable with those top gallopers, and you spoke to us about a connection with another Freedman off camera, which absolutely stunned me. Talk to me about Sam Freedman and his cricketing career.
Well, yeah, he came through Melbourne Grammar and then was a standout at school, and then we recruited him across to, I think he might have played a game or two at St Kilda, and then came across to Paran where a lot of his friends were, and I captained him, this is well after my professional career, but I captained him in the second 11, and he had good all-round capability and was probably going to go a little bit further. He said he was going over to England to have a season of cricket. That's how he presented it to Paran. We said, that's fantastic, go and do that. I'm not sure there's much cricket. There's a lot of time in the stables, and it really lit that fire, of course, with his learning about horse training, and his dad, Anthony, of course, more of a background, one of the Freedman guys as a trainer, and I think it's a perfect combination now, the two of them, with Sam a bit more upfront and friendly, if you like. I know that Anthony wouldn't mind me saying that, but he's quite happy just doing the job and doing that. But I know that Anthony was saying all the way through, he goes, I don't want him to get into horse racing, keep encouraging him with his sport, and I'm sure he did all those things, but the love's obviously in the Freedman blood, and although Sam, he had a future in cricket, there's no doubt about it.
So what was he like? He was an all-rounder. What were his skills and what sort of player was he?
Yeah, medium pace bowler who swung the ball. So anyone who moves the ball, you've got to keep encouraging, I think, and swinging the ball. And, good friends of mine, Damien Fleming, has said that all the time. It's hard to hit that moving ball. Pace is okay. The best players can handle the pace, but you've got to move the ball. And he certainly did that and was a really capable middle-order bat as well. And he was just a really good athlete, I suppose, and you probably see how athletic he is getting around the racetrack now. But I think he's probably made the right choice winning a Melbourne Cup and Caulfield Cup double last year.
Yeah, when Without a Fight won the double, you probably thought you steered him in the right direction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'll take all credit, of course.
Now, sticking with the horse racing connection, you've got a fascinating friendship these days through your wife, Georgie, with the great Gay Waterhouse.
Yeah, they met through the salon. They have the same initials, GW, and through that connection, Gay said, that's going to be the hairdresser for me. So Georgie's had salons in the city for some time, and they connected through that, and obviously the love of racing with the two of us. And, we enjoy going, and dressing up's good fun, and Georgie's loved that all her life, and her salon was a big part of that, preparing a lot of the ladies for the big race meetings. She would start work at 4 a.m, and such as the preparation with everyone coming through and getting their hair done before the races, and then off we'd go to the races, and she'd be exhausted all day. But Gay's been terrific and had us through for many days, and she's just a wonderful person for racing, and the way I think everyone's got a Gay Waterhouse story of how you may have met her or enjoyed some time with her, and like all the great people like that, they make you feel really special. And boy, with her combination at the moment, they're absolutely on fire with Adrian Bott and her, and the way that they're training and preparing, particularly the younger horses, is pretty special. So one day I'll have a horse with her. At this stage, we've never done that.
Yeah, just get a few extra dollars, because I don't think they'll miss you with the training bills. But she's an absolute superstar. We're so blessed to have her. But on race days, you often spend time with her and with the owners. Now, I dare say that's a very interesting experience, because not only do you deal with all the different owners that she's got, which are a wide variety of people in life, but most fascinating, you get to deal with Gay on race day. What's she like then?
Well, it's quite remarkable. She's taken us on a day literally from the morning and in the car there where she's ringing all the owners and talking to them about what's going to lie ahead in the race meeting. And Georgie and I are in the back seat just hearing all this as she's got a stable table and everything out there. She's so well organised. She's got a great team of people around her and they've become really close friends through Georgie, of course. And so it was great to see that. And the way she just goes around the course, she knows everyone by name, everyone who opens a door throughout the members. She'll spend a moment with everyone. It was quite remarkable. And I think, as I said, everyone's just got that warmth that she carries around. And of course, her success on track is pretty good as well. But just understanding how they've trained particular horses, how they're all a little bit different, how she has a particular style that she likes to run, obviously, as a front runner and giving them every chance, and they're prepared that way. And you got every chance every time a Gay Waterhouse or Bott Waterhouse horse is going to the racetrack. It's got a good chance because it'll run up the front and set the pace.
Have you ever been trackside and there's been disappointed owners that have maybe voiced their disappointment at Gay? And if so, how has she responded?
Well, I think they kind of accept it. She's so well at saying, look, we're going to give it every chance and this is the situation. But look, there haven't been too many disappointments, I've got to be honest. They don't always win, but they always have the best chance. And she certainly shares that. But the privilege of being, I guess, in the box with the owners and sharing that and meeting a lot of the people behind it, it has been wonderful, really. A lot of Sydney siders, of course, Sydney connection, but them down in Melbourne as well, and just meeting a lot of people through racing. It's a great place to just enjoy the social occasion, but also the fact that everyone's from different backgrounds and all that. And I think they balance the box really well for the like-minded people, and they're really experienced at doing that. So everyone has a great day.
How many get starstruck by the fact they're talking to a bloke with a baggy green?
Not too many. I don't think they're probably more interested in talking to the one with the Melbourne Cup and won that. But look, we do enjoy a bit of that, and I think every young boy in Australia, in my era or even older, and some of the owners are in that sort of vintage. We all had the same dream as we were growing up in the backyard or beach cricket or wherever it was that you play cricket. We all wanted to play for Victoria, and that was obviously a great privilege of mine later on in my career. But we all shared that dream, and we sort of I share that with them as well. That we all wanted to be able to do that. There only been only a bit over 400 that have been able to do it, but we all shared that same cricketing dream.
Now, was it a nice mix being a cricketer in Melbourne and in Australia compared to going overseas? Because I dare say you go to Caulfield, you get recognised, people would have a quick chat, but basically you'd be left to your own devices, have a beer or two and have a bet. How different was it to when you were in India with the Australia A team where you literally needed a police escort everywhere you went?
That's exactly right. It is so different, and we're really lucky, I think, being the sporting capital, not only Australia, probably the world, that we're comfortable with people who we know when we see playing sport on telly and things like that. I think in India, with so many people, it can be overbearing, and a lot of the players find that a bit uncomfortable, to be perfectly honest, because you can't just walk the streets like you do here, and you've got to be. They have a high level of security so that the players are well looked after and are safe and secure. But look, it's one of the most enjoyable parts of coming and being at Australia. All the events that you can go to. Look, there were motor racing enthusiasts. Brad Hodges sort of been involved in that now, and he's always followed the F1s, and so just the different sports that you could go to and be part of. We're really lucky, and Melbourne it's got everything. So not in the least the horse racing as well.
Now, let's pivot to your cricket career, because for a long time you were the second best spinner in the state, which is an amazing achievement. The one problem was it was Shane Warne who was number one.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Look, I've been really fortunate, and as much as it kept me out of the team, it is part of life, I suppose. Is just a matter of getting better, and I probably wasn't going to be pushing past him. And I played a few games when he was playing for Australia in the early 2000s, and then had a bit of a break back to Premier Cricket for about 4 years. And then when he retired in 2007, albeit a bit later in my life, well into my 30s, but it gave me the opportunity to play pretty regularly for Victoria. And be really well supported by another leg spinner, which was Cameron White, who kept throwing me the ball. And I've got a I'm really appreciative of that as well. Above his own interests at that stage, I think he probably enjoyed batting a bit more than he did bowling. But it was great to be able to catch up with Warnie, and now a lot of that knowledge, I'm really pleased to be able to share that with others as well, because there's some real Shane Warne 101s about spin bowling. He shared that to the public a little bit around some of the videos he's done, and that'll always hold true. It's terrific information. He's probably the best ever leg spinner that's ever been, and sharing that information with others and aspiring other spinners is something that lights me up. And as much as it was Warnie that probably kept me out of the team, but that's okay too.
Now, you're the number 2 spinner in the state, and you were absolutely top 3 spinner in the country. What was it like being with Warnie, who was not only number 1 in the state or the country or the world, and in my opinion, the best slow bowler of all time? What was the difference between you or a Stewie McGill and Shane Warne?
Well, there were some fundamentals that he learnt, and he's a great coach, Terry Jenner, set him up on the right path to be deadly accurate, and he worked on those things. And there was a couple of technique things that he did with that, but he was just built to do it. He had, like massive biceps on his spinning fingers. His hands were big and strong, and he was a powerful athlete. And I guess a lot of the lighter guys like me, but what I did learn is that it is a power bowling thing. Shane Warne's arm went round the same speed as Brett Lee. He just put a lot of spin on the ball, and so those types of things, once you learn about it, is terrific. Stuart McGill had a different approach. He was going to spin every ball as hard as he possibly could, with probably the understanding that he might bowl a couple of loose ones in amongst there, but every 4 out of 6 balls is going to be incredibly difficult to play against, with big turning wrong-uns and leggies as well. I was probably more in the mould of being quite consistent. I learnt a fair bit from a baseball pitcher. One of my neighbours, in actual fact, went over to the Padres. He didn't end up playing in the major leagues, but did his college in the States, and he was a curveball pitcher. So I learnt so much about moving the ball before it hit the pitch. So when the MCG was as flat as anything, it wasn't spinning. They're the things that I was able to do and probably survive when the wickets were really flat, that I was able to do that. Still tried to spin every ball as hard as I could, but it was more about getting that trajectory. And as Warne would say, the presentation of the ball, the way you put things is so cool. It was fun to be doing the coolest thing in cricket too, bowling leg spin. So I'm very thankful for Warnie and setting that standard.
And I love the fact you speak about him so glowingly, and it sounded like you were more than happy to be his understudy for that period of time. Was there any temptation, though, to leave Victoria to go to a state where you would be the number 1 Shield spinner?
Look, there was, and at different times I spoke to a few states, but I guess there was a generation below that they were sort of looking for the next young spinner to come through. And I guess Warnie had set an odd precedent at 23, 24. He was bowling in the test team, and really that's where he took off. And we're looking to replicate that sort of model. But in spin bowling, it's very, very difficult to do so. Many have had that opportunity, and not many have succeeded to do it at that age. It's much later in your 20s and even in your 30s where spinners do start bowling at their best. Now, that's not saying that there won't be another one that breaks through, a prodigy like Warnie did. But I think a lot of the other states were backing their younger guys. And as I said, I was a generation out. Like, I was a bit older, but still running around with the young guys, if you like. So it was a bit unfashionable, and it was probably unfashionable towards the end as well, where even though I was performing really well, they had to look for the next generation, and handing over the Victorian number 18 to John Holland, albeit a finger spinner, was pretty cool too. And Victoria's got a good legacy of supporting the spinners coming through, and I made sure that he felt really comfortable with coming through. He played one day as at a stage, I was playing Shield cricket, and towards the end as that transition came through, and then he took on and played more tests than me. So certainly Victorian selectors got it right.
Well, Victorian selectors got it right in playing you as well once Warnie did retire. And from the moment you got your chance, you really took it with both hands. You took wickets, the team was going well. It was a really enjoyable and successful couple of years.
It's interesting you say that is enjoyable, and there's a lot of stress around cricket. It's a hard sport to play, and often a lot of the old pros, and you hear it in the commentary, talking about the fact that you fail more than you succeed in cricket, and that's probably true. Bowling's a little different. You can bounce back after each delivery, but yeah, look, it has that level of stress, but I think what we're able to do so well in the Victorian group was actually have fun and find fun in the moments outside of the stress. So it actually helped players perform a lot better because it was enjoyable. Yes, we were playing a high standard. Yes, training was incredibly difficult with all the fast bowlers we had and how competitive it was. It was really, really challenging, and then we got the best out of each other. But we also were able to balance that with a bit of fun, and it was a perfect balance. We had the right personalities. We respected the fact that everyone was a little bit different. We had forklift drivers from Ballarat. We had bogans from Heidelberg. We had guys who were born to play cricket in Brad Hodge, and we had country blokes like Andrew McDonald, which was that sort of glue that held it all together. And now he's doing such a wonderful job for the Australian cricket team. But it was a great dynamic and flair players coming through in Aaron Finch and Dirk Nannes and characters like this. It made for just an epic period and a whole lot of fun and so many good memories. And most of them we'd forgotten until we were able to catch up. And thankfully we can do that every now and again and reminisce about those great times.
Now, it did take a while for you to establish yourself in the Victorian team, but it was not that long after that the Australian team came on your radar, and it was relatively quickly, probably in terms of your mindset, to when the Australian A team came knocking. When did you think, hang on a sec, I might be a chance to go to the next level?
Well, I think all the way through, I guess my whole career, I'd just done it step by step. So I probably saw myself as a local cricketer that just wanted to keep getting better. Now, that took a bit of determination and dedication to doing that, and particularly bowling spin to do that. But inside, I had a fire that was I can go and achieve, and I can keep doing better and better. Outside was probably pretty humble about what was going on, and not that overtly confident, arrogant about what I was doing. It was more about this inner drive. But I always felt that my best just kept getting better and better, and I just kept on believing that. There was a primary school teacher who wrote on our board every morning, always my best, and Mr. McCormick from Vale Street Primary. I got to thank him because that drove me all the way through my whole career in cricket, but also life, about always my best. So it's funny what happened. My best just kept getting better and better and better. So I didn't really put a limit on where I was or have those type of aspirations. I just wanted to keep getting better, and thankful for those guys around me and those players, Dave Hussey as well, and bowling to those guys and learning off bowling to them set me up really well for playing against the best players around the country as well.
So what was it like when you got the call up to that Australian A team?
Well, it was terribly exciting. Obviously, finding the next level and others, acknowledging that you're performing and so you deserve that position. It was really exciting. We went across to India and performed really well. I started performing really well. It was 2 games and it was leading into a test series, so the timing was right. And I wasn't necessarily thinking about the test matches down the track, but it was probably more about going to this country and playing cricket in India where spin bowling is it. Like it is phenomenal. So I started bowling. We were playing in Bangalore, and I'd taken 3 of the first 4 wickets. I had Simon Kadich as captain, who was backing what I was doing. Everything was flying along. Virat Kohli was a fresh-faced 18-year-old coming out, and I ripped a couple past his outside edge. And a couple of overs later, I ended up tearing my side and getting injured. So that sort of stopped that. So it just gave me this taste of playing in India and how good it is. The conditions so suited to spin bowling. Having done it around Australia where it's not really that suited to spin bowling. Sure, there's extra bounce and things like that, but being able to bowl in the best country in the world for spin bowlers. But look, it was terribly exciting. It was great to be there, but somewhat disappointing that it sort of set this injury aside where I tore my lat dorsi, which is a bit unusual, but leg spinners, that's one of the big major muscle groups that we use. So that was a bit disappointing to finish that way.
Now, there's never a good time to get injured, but that was just a deplorable time to get injured. The fact that you were on the verge of playing in that Indian series, and then when you did get your chance in South Africa, it sounds like you weren't 100%. Yeah,
and at the time, you're probably not aware of that, overtly aware of that, until you then, in hindsight, you can build your strength back up and go, that's the bit, that was the missing piece. And it was around the speeds that I could bowl and challenge the batsman with much faster deliveries and along with the stock delivery. But look, I know it wasn't quite as I dreamt as a young boy. My debut and the one test match that I played, and I know I went for plenty of runs, but I'm proud of the fact that every ball I bowled, I gave 100%, and I'm certainly not ashamed of representing Australia in that manner. But it was the way it worked out. That was the one and only opportunity. There's a handful of us. the one test wonders, if you like, and a couple of us Victorians in John Hastings and Clint Mackay and Ferg have become a good friend around the one test players. And so it's a bit of a badge of honour in itself, I think, around Australian cricket as the one test wonderfuls, as I like to call us. So hopefully we can get together and I've proposed a barbecue on the 1st of January, the 1st of the 1st every year, that we can get together and have a barbecue and celebrate the fact that, we played one test. A few guys want to come along to it. I've mentioned it, Bobby Quinny, but he played 2 tests, so he can't get along to our one test barbecue. So look, it is one of those things. It's difficult to get there. It's disappointing not to have more opportunity, but certainly incredibly proud of representing my country at Test cricket.
Well, you should be absolutely incredibly proud, and it's something you've got for the rest of your life. We'll talk about 2009. So South Africa comes out to Australia and they win the series, and then not long after, the Aussies go back to South Africa. Now, we were huge underdogs in that series, and you get the call up to the team, and it was a quality team. Ricky Ponting was the skipper, Michael Clarke, the late Phil Hughes, Mike Hussey and Mitchell Johnson, some of the stars of the team. What was it like walking into that Australian dressing room and basically boarding the plane to go over there with the team?
Yeah, look, it was it was different. So a lot of these players have certainly played against the high-end guys I hadn't spent a lot of time with. Ricky Ponting, not so much. Played a little bit against Michael Clarke as he was coming through as a young prodigy, of course, for New South Wales, and played against him in my first Shield game and was lucky enough to get him out. There weren't too many spinners after that because he was a good player of spin, good footwork, of course. But look, it was certainly very different to the Victorian changing room, and I guess that's natural of all the players coming together. But so many good memories of that. Obviously, the disappointment in the series of Australia not winning in Australia, but it was a 3-test series there, and then, as you say, 3 tests in South Africa. So we went over there, but it was when Phil Hughes, and we actually got a great connection together, probably the oldest and the youngest in the squad, but it was terrific, and he was a cheeky fella, but always had time and, preparing together, even after the Shield game that he did incredibly well leading up into that against Victoria, Shield final that he made 100. So he went out for a duck in his first game, but then made two centuries in that second test. I was 12th man in the first couple of tests. It was only when Marcus North got sick, and I was unaware of that I played in the third test. I was a late inclusion, if you like, on the morning of the game, whether Marcus North was going to get back in. And through that period, it was the fast bowlers that did the job. Mitch Johnson, of course, made his first test 100 there. I was at the other end of that. And then he was that excited, his eyes were spinning, and he ran me out the next ball. So he was that caught up in the moment. But he was just a different player. Like, Dale Steyn bowling 140 Ks an hour, and he's launching him for sixes all over the park. I was just, even in the game, I'm thinking, this can't be happening. Like, how is he absolutely doing this? But these guys were terrific players, and it was probably the real step of Peter Siddle also onto the main stage of international cricket, where he consistently been booed by the opposition because he was quite prepared to, bounce the ball up their nose a few times and rattle them, and he did so very well. And I have so many good memories about it. It's not a bad memory at all through my own performance. It's just this series that we'd won and singing the song with Australia, all of those things. Learning how the professionals go about it. Mike Hussey, how every step was covered in the preparation for every test match to make sure that they can perform at their best. It was such a great learning experience as well.
How was it different to the Victorian change rooms?
I think the Victorian change rooms was probably a bit more relaxed because we knew each other so well. I think a lot of the learning at the national stage there was probably that understanding of not knowing each other that well. So I was in a different position in my life because I was probably a little bit older. I was a father. I was a single father, so I was working through some complications with that side of things. So no one else in the team had kids. So it was, or they had very young kids and babies. So Liam was a little older at that stage. So it was just a different scenario. And I guess managing all those things where you're together all the time for Victoria, everyone understands that everyone's just a little bit different and they've got different things in their life, and they truly understand that. And we know with football and AFL particularly, the sides that have that empathy and compassion for each other and that true understanding are the ones that are very successful. Richmond, of course, come to mind in recent times, how they were so open and sharing amongst each other. And I think Victoria had that. Australia were looking to build that. And, one of those players who was tremendous at doing that and was a great sounding board for me was Andrew McDonald all the way through Victoria. the boarding passes are always handed out in alphabetical order. So McDonald sat next to McGain every flight we ever took for Victoria, and he was wonderful at doing that and understanding those things. And I think now, not necessarily, and through all that learning in our squad, I think he's able to put that in, and it's quite a contemporary way to coach and give the control to the players, and manage them in that manner. And I think Australia are going from strength to strength at the moment under his guidance as a coach.
Before we nut down on your appearance in the third test, the first two tests, the Aussies, they cause upsets, they win. You're the 12th man, so you're very much involved. What was it like during the entire experience, seeing the likes of Ponting and Clark and Phil Hughes make all those runs and be part of this team that you've watched from afar for so long?
Yeah, it was absolute excitement, and excited for them and being part of it. As I said, the professionalism, the way they went about it. I don't know how Ricky Ponting did. He did every interview after the game. He did all that. He did all the preparation. He made sure he got around to all the players. He watched golf for all hours of the night. I don't know when he slept, because he could tell you every shot of the golf of the night before. And I was just amazed at the workload that he had and the appetite for it and the love of the game. And, thankfully now he's still involved coaching in different capacities around the world and sharing his knowledge. And But that was some of the things that I had no idea about. But he was so terrific at all of those types of things. Look, it was a really special time. Australia were bouncing back. They'd had a poke in the nose in Australia, as we said, and for them to bounce back and do so wonderfully well, it was terrific. And to celebrate with them and enjoy that and celebrate the success of the team and be part of that was really, really special, albeit that I didn't quite have the nerves of being out there and competing in the contest.
Personally, what were one or two of them like off the field that was quite different to what you anticipated?
Look, I think playing against Doug Bollinger was a real challenge, because he was so confronting and doing that. Off the field, he's just a big clown and got in the way all the time. And there was at Dale Steyn, when he came on, they always had a music playing, and he had AC/DC TNT come on, and everyone got a little nervy when that came on. That sound came on, because there'd be another spell, and the batting room everyone, the next few batters would be a bit touchy and all that sort of stuff. And Doug would be running around singing the song in the background going, TNT, dynamite. So, look, he just loved it, and he had no filter at all. But, so I enjoyed the characters of, the guys being themselves, and a young Peter Siddle coming through, and certainly celebrating successes at that stage was a part of Peter Siddle, but performing well and on the field. It was so exciting to see those, and obviously the youthful exuberance of Phil Hughes and the way he went around. So there's some really good characters around the team, as much as there were the professionals that guided them. The professionals were certainly very pleased as well, those mainstays in the team, to fight back against South Africa, because they were stacked. They were a really, really good team, and to win over there was a real milestone for Australian cricket.
It was sensational. So the Aussies win the first two tests. We go into the third test at Cape Town, and you're a game day call-up to the team. As you said, Marcus North is out, so you get called up to play your first test, and you find out on the day. So your head must have been just spinning. What can you remember? Do you remember getting your bag of green, or what was said?
Yeah, well, I do, because it was like a surprise party. So it was a couple of guys would have known in the room. So obviously Ricky Ponting and Michael Clark as captain and vice captain, and a few others. So no one was really talking to me in the rooms. Not that really matters, and you're sort of getting ready and prepared, and I'm just getting ready to be 12th man, really. Yep. And then we go out for the warm-up, and so I'm thinking about everyone else, making sure I'm taking out the team kit and doing those types of things and making sure I'm doing my role properly. But, and then they, from behind the back of the manager, they hand it over to Ricky Ponting, who's wearing a bit of a huddle, and, it's a milestone morning. There's been a late change, and, Bryce is going, and I'm like, what? Like, I can't believe it. And I was really fortunate enough. One of the great things of it is a couple of friends who are part of my career at Mornington Career Club, Peter Buchanan and Tony Stocker, were a couple of players. Tony Stocker coached me at under 14s, and we played together later in the first. And they'd come over going, look, whether he plays or not in the third test, we want to come over and just be part of it. And along with another friend, Mark Dunsford, and Georgie, who then is now my wife, came over at that stage as well, and was part of that ceremony without the idea that I'd ever be playing. So for that, I'm really lucky, and I went over and was able to, they could see something going on, and then obviously I put the hat on. They couldn't believe it either. So to share that and have someone there to go over and hug Georgie and the guys that have been part of my journey was pretty special. So that was a great moment, and then. then we're into the game, and it was a bit of a whirlwind because that was only an hour and 15 minutes later. The game's underway. We go out and bat, and probably not bat as well as we could.
No, I think that's safe to say. We didn't perform too well with the bat. What's it like, though, when you're back in the rooms? You're probably still just buzzing and the anticipation and the nerves and the excitement, thinking, I'm living out my dream. It's happened so quickly, and you're trying to compose yourself before you've got to focus on playing.
Yeah, and look, thankfully we did bat because it did take a day. I've got to be honest with you. I'm probably one of, and I'd be happy to sleep the night before. I wouldn't have a sleepless night if I'd known. But I guess with these types of things and illness, they want to make sure and give the opportunity for the incumbent, which was Marcus North, of course. But look, it was one of those days. It was just, and I'm sitting there going, I can't believe this. And then at a break and all that, and we're losing a few wickets. I've got to go and prepare the gear, and I've got a baggy green in my bag. Like, this is outrageous that this is actually happening. So. It is a genuine dream, and one that I never really thought that would come to fruition, even though, playing first-class cricket. If I'd played 1 or 3 games for Victoria, I would have, that would have been amazing. But then to play a lot more and play 30 games and then to play a test, and there were just pinch-me moments all the way through that particular day, and as people went in, and there was a strike of reality when I had to pad up and go out there. I'm sure, that really sharpened things up. And facing Dale Steyn and McKay and Natini and these likes, these guys I've seen on telly. But seriously, going out there to face them was another story and had the heart going. But look, it was quite remarkable. Once I'd slept on it a bit and gone, okay, now I've got a job to do. I had my head around, what I needed to do the next day.
Unfortunately, the Aussie bats did not get the job done. And then when the South Africans went out to bat on a very good batting wicket, they did get the job done.
Indeed.
You were throwing the ball, and I can't think of many worse scenarios to make your bowling debut because you've got Prince, Callis and de Villiers all seen them like beach balls. All those star batsmen went on to make big tons.
Yeah, they did indeed. Jacques Callis scored his 10,000th run by a big launch over mid-wicket off my bowling, and look, I guess it's every kid's dream as they're coming through to make 100. I didn't know I was going to be off my own bowling off about 10 overs, but look, it was one of those things. It was lined up, and they really wanted to take to the new spinner, I suppose, and on a very flat surface and small ground. They really cashed in, and AB de Villiers, we saw how dynamic he can be, and look, I won't lie, it was certainly a challenge, and the ground and the squad, the crowd around the ground was pretty daunting as well. They were certainly letting us know about all those things, and was ultra competitive, and they enjoyed being front runners. Certainly about that. A lot of the guys said it was probably like the Collingwood cheer squad times 10, and I can't disagree with them. It was a bit of a cauldron out there, but look, they peeled off a lot. AB de Villiers made 160, I think, just cashing in the middle order, and the work that Prince and Callis had done beforehand, getting 100. So it was well set up. I think they scored over 600,000, it felt like, but we're out there for a long time and chasing a lot of leather.
Now, we all know you played Test match cricket. That's an amazing achievement. But doing the research for this podcast, I was like, hang on, that can't be right. Denmark?
Yes.
Denmark? Yeah. He played for Denmark? How on earth did that happen?
Yeah, there's very few guys that can say they're dual internationals, Quinny, but yes, it came about. I was over there in the early 2000s, just coaching and playing with a club, and then Denmark used to be part of, and the associate nations in Europe were part of the one-day competition in England. And as part of that, you could have an international player. So I ended up playing as an international player.
A ring-in,
basically. But I was in good touch over there. I peeled off a 50, and a lot of the bottom order of the Victorians sort of go through the records. Not that aware that I'd played for Denmark in this one-day cup over there. So I batted at 4, I think, for 4 or 6, or certainly in the top order with Denmark, and had the opportunity to make a 50. And so my average was always blown out in these list day statistics. So against all the other fast bowlers, they go, oh, let's just check the averages, where your averages are. And I'd have them all covered all the time. But with this 50 runs that I scored there. But look, it was a great time. It promoted my love and understanding of cricket, teaching kids that English is not their first language. So you need to be really concise with the way that you teach the game. And instill, because in Denmark, all they saw, and there was a lot of young Indian and Pakistani kids, as well as Danish kids, who would be part of that, all they saw were highlights. So a lot of the Pakistani kids would see highlights of Afridi. A lot of the Indian kids highlights of Seawag, and they thought that's how you play cricket. But teaching them how to drop and run and do all those things, I really, really enjoyed it, and it really fired my love for coaching, and that sort of came a bit later on. And I was able to instill that in doing some academy programs after I played cricket and tours to India and tours up to Darwin at different times with teams that I was coaching. But that's where it started, and so that's how the story came about from playing a couple of games for Denmark in that one-day cup.
So it's safe to say that Princess Mary is the second most famous Australian in Denmark?
Well, anything Australian at that stage, because she just came onto the scene, you're right, anything Australian could go gangbusters. So I was nearly thinking of starting an Australian bar, an Australian cafe. Anything Australian in Denmark at that stage was very popular. And I think that was the one thing that got me selected in the team because it was definitely the flavour of the month.
Bryce, you've had an amazing career. Well done on everything you achieved. Love your positive outlook and best of luck going forward.
So great catching up with you, Quinny.